Food, we all need it daily, but as the world population increases, so do agricultural demands. So how can we make the food on all our plates more environmentally friendly? We find out on this episode of Sustainable Energy. Hello and welcome to Belgium, more precisely in Brussels. I'm Asha and I'll be your guide as we meet the innovators who are adding the ingredient of nature-based solutions to our food industry. After all, according to our World in Data website, food production is responsible for around a quarter of the world's greenhouse gas emissions. From livestock to landfill to gas-guzzling supply chains, what we eat doesn't always come with a healthy carbon footprint. Coming up on the show, we meet the innovators looking to go green.
Eating fresh food isn't just good for your health, it's also better for the environment. We'll try plant-based burgers in Washington, D.C. and take a peek at what the future holds for alternative meat.
It tastes super meaty and juicy.
In Zurich, we meet an entrepreneur looking to make supermarkets and consumers more responsible.
We look to precisely measure the environmental footprint of our food.
Now it may look as if I'm in the countryside, but I'm actually in the heart of Brussels, on my way to meet a specialist from the International Panel of Experts on Sustainable Food System, the IPES Food, who will be on hand throughout the show to answer all of our questions. But first, some facts and figures that show eating healthy can help us maintain a healthier planet, and why you should care.
We are all seemingly under pressure to buy fresh food from our local farmers market, but the produce usually does cost more. Mass-produced processed food can be cheaper. It can last longer on shelves too, but their energy bill and carbon footprint are higher than locally sourced produce. In the food industry, greenhouse gas emissions are produced at each stage of the supply chain, from the growing, rearing and farming to the processing, transporting and storing, even to our homes when we cook and dispose of the food we eat. So the UN's food and agricultural body, the FAO, now promotes sustainable food systems. It believes, quote, "A sustainable food system is one that delivers food security and nutrition for all in such a way that the economic, social and environmental basis to generate food security and nutrition for future generations is not compromised." Some experts even take this a step further. They tell us changing your diets will reduce our impact on climate change.
The way we should change them is we should eat what the farmers who live in our part of the world, in our region, should produce using sustainable production methods. Farmers should be as self-sufficient as possible. That's the best way to feed ourselves, grow our own food, or at least buy from producers who live locally to us. That's food security as well. We need more food security.
If you're wondering how you can eat to help the planet, the UN says in theory we can all just eat less animal products. The livestock industry is responsible for nearly 15% of greenhouse gas emissions and 63% of deforestation in the Amazon, where forests are cleared for grazing lands. Then there's something else you should watch out for: food loss and waste. 1/3 of all the food produced in the world does not get eaten. That's worth around $680 billion in industrialized countries and $310 in developing ones.
We need to throw less food away and be more frugal like we used to be during the Second World War. And in developing countries such as Africa, we need to help the farmers store their crops better.
If eating better also means eating less and spending a little more on our food, then convincing the world's population to give up industrially processed food can't be easy. The UN estimates 2 billion people suffer nutrition problems on the planet. It also says that investing in nutrition and sustainable food systems is both a moral imperative and a sound economic investment.
The menu to go green may seem like an exhausting, never-ending list. So to help us choose the healthiest option, I'm on my way to meet Olivier de Schutter, an IPS specialist who will advise us on the best way to transform our food systems. Hi Olivier, thank you for joining me. We're here at an urban farm. Tell me, what is the place about?
This place was empty some 8-9 years ago. And in 2012, a number of people came together in this center of Brussels in order to develop this urban gardening space. And they did so for pedagogical reasons, for the surrounding schools. And it's a way to allow these urban families in Brussels to have access to the food that they produce themselves or that are sold through very short supply chains.
Tell us about the IPS.
So IPS Food is a group of 28 international experts who provide recommendations to governments and other actors to move to sustainable food systems. And it is a group of experts that has been developing the idea that governments should develop food policies in order to shift to sustainability.
Olivier, tell us about the impact eating locally and seasonally can have on the health of the planet.
It's important to realize that the reason why our food systems are not sustainable is because we've encouraged the globalization of food supply schemes. We've developed trade, we've developed long supply chains, and the longer food travels, the further it travels, the more processed it is, the more packaged it shall be, and the less nutritious it shall be. It also is a way to encourage a type of farming that is not sustainable. Heavily mechanized in monocultures meant for large markets to be supplied with large volumes. So relocalizing food systems is a way to have access to much more nutritious diets. It's a way to encourage farmers to move to much more diversified farming systems that can support the health of the soil and thus allow the soil to function as a sink for carbon. It is a way, in other terms, to make food production more sustainable and to make food consumption more healthy for the people who have access to these fresh, locally produced foods.
Most people buy at least some of their food from supermarkets where, you know, you easily buy out of season food. It's often cheaper than local or organic food. Do you see this trend changing anytime soon?
The prices do not reflect today the real impacts of food production on the ecosystems and on the planet. And if we were to pay the real price for industrially processed foods, we would pay a much higher price because we would need to compensate for all the social, health and environmental impacts of industrially produced foods.
Thanks, Olivier. Still ahead, taking the beef out of burgers, we take a look
At just how sustainable those meatless alternatives really are.
I didn't know that a plant-based burger was going to really be this good.
Still watching? Perfect. Click here to watch another great video from CNBC International. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.